Disclaimer. I know there is a lot of discourse surrounding the subject of this video, so whatever your perspective, I ask you to please keep the conversation civil. Racism and hate will not be tolerated on this channel. With all that said, let's get on with the video. So a short time ago, we got casting announcements for our main trio in the Percy Jackson and the Olympians Disney Plus series. The fandom seems to have had an easy time accepting Walker Scobell as Percy, Aryan Simhadri as Grover, and to an extent, Leah Jefferies as Annabeth. Personally, I think the shot gives us strong wise girl vibes, and I do like the shot of them all being happy with Uncle Rick. There are, however, a few people who are displeased with this casting in regards to how different it is from how they envision the character based on the descriptions from the books and the official artwork. There doesn't seem to be an issue with Grover, seeing as one of the previous live-action portrayals of him was portrayed by an actor of color. However, with the Annabeth casting, there is a lot more discourse. Annabeth has only been portrayed in official artwork and live-action adaptations prior to this as a white girl with blonde hair. So, many fans have stated their displeasement with this decision, and a lot of this is obviously racism, which, as I said before, will not be tolerated on this channel. And the author has slammed the backlash hard, defending the casting decision by saying the actress's ability to portray the character is the most important, and the appearance was secondary. And that's what I wanted to dive into with this video, because it's something that not everyone who's talking about it seems to fully understand. So if you've watched this far, I welcome you, as I take a simple, logical look at the requirements and process of creating a TV show. We all know that there are changes that need to happen when it comes to any kind of adaptation, and some of that is due to differences in medium. When an author writes a book, they can describe literally anything they want and the reader's imagination does the rest, no matter how grand in scale or visually abstract it is. Graphic novels have a similar advantage as the artist can draw anything they want and it costs them the same as drawing anything else. These are mediums where, for the most part, you can describe or show literally anything imaginable at no additional cost compared to any other part of the story. Live-action media like films have a severe disadvantage compared to books in this regard, because they need to be something that the audience can picture fitting into the real world, and even with the advent of CGI, it can't be too extravagant or detailed even when working with a budget of a company like Disney and a well-known IP. That's why when Luke shows up in the Season 2 finale of The Mandalorian, he has his hood up most of the time, so the deepfake Mark Hamill does not need to be on screen for very long. When it comes to casting for a specific character, there is an additional complication, especially with child characters, because you don't just need good acting, you need good child acting, which can be very difficult to find. Cases like Stranger Things, when you have this many kids with relatively high level of acting talent, all the right age that act well and play off each other really well, are a rarity. Heck, some films still have trouble finding one good child actor that's relatively the right age to play the character in question. So in casting, you need an actor that is skilled enough, can portray the character's personality and arc, and is in the right age range. Your pool of actors who fit all those qualifications is going to be very small at that point. And that's just to make a good show or film without a 100% concrete expectation for how the character is expected to look. Stranger Things is still a lucky break, even without the complication of adaptation. If you throw in the added complication of the actor being mostly accurate to what was described in the book, that cuts out even more potential candidates, some of which may have been actors that are more skilled or a better fit for the character's personality than the ones that are left, which is not a good choice for the show, because for an adaptation to be successful, it needs to be good as a standalone show, first and foremost, good enough to win over non-book fans. To illustrate this point, I'm going to bring up another recent streaming series adaptation of a fantasy book series I've read, Amazon Prime's The Wheel of Time. This series also had fan discourse when most of the main cast was announced due to some previously perceived as white characters, even portrayed as such in graphic novel form, were now set to be portrayed by people of color. I am aware of the fact that this is not a perfect comparison, seeing as the characters' skin color were never set in stone as white in the books. Daniel Greene and Matt Hatch made a video on this if you're interested in looking into it. It's rather surprising how much it reminds me of the situation with Leah. And the original author of the books is no longer with us. Rest in peace, so we don't know how he would have reacted to the casting. Now, I'm aware that when the show came out, it was rather divisive amongst fans, with some liking it but having criticisms, and some vitriolically hating it. But in both cases, even the most show-hating fans, the criticism is mostly directed at the writing and story structure and not the actors. Despite all the hate and criticism that the show has gotten from fans, none of it is about the actors' appearances not matching exactly what they perceive them to be in the books. because it isn't a problem at all. The discussions of the actors' appearances ended shortly after they began, not even lasting until the show's initial release date, and hopefully the same thing will happen with the Percy Jackson series. An actor's appearance not being 100% book accurate is just not important when it comes to making a good show or adaptation. And if you still don't believe me, I'll remind you that Game of Thrones character Tyrion Lannister doesn't look anything like he is described in the book. People who enjoyed the show in the first few seasons enjoyed it and didn't complain about the actor's appearance, and those who came to hate the show later on blasted it for different reasons. Conclusion. If you're put off by any of the casting decisions for this series, get over yourself. This is just one of the many changes that's going to come with this adaptation. The show was never going to be a 100% accurate representation of the books, and that's okay. Now, to be honest with all of you, I'm a bit skeptical of this adaptation. I'm still somewhat optimistic, and I've made the decision to trust Rick's judgment with his own story, but for now, we'll just have to wait and see. Whether you're a diehard fan of this series or a prospective newcomer, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, the Mythos archives are always open.